Yes, it's the end of 2021. Well, it's been since I'm already almost a month, and I'm finally getting to this. And I'm going to have to be quick, because I got somewhere to go after this. So, yay, I get to talk about something, all the good stuff that came out in 2021. Or these things that, are honorable mentions, which I will put in no particular order, which, by the way, I'm humming this one song that's from this one band that also involves another band that's also involved in these honorable mentions. I'm going to be brief about these honorable mentions, starting with Things They Believe by Loathe. Apparently did a track with another band. That band is, if I have it in here somewhere, which it's just not Deafheaven, though the new album's okay. I just didn't like it as much as I remember. Till This Shakes Apart by a 5 Iron Frenzy. Some good ska. Good ska. 12 Foot Ninjas, Vengeance. Good progressive metal. A really, 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 really highly good album by Rise Against and Horror Generation. Though I haven't had a chance to listen to this, but I do remember liking this very fondly. Night Versus Copper Wasp EP. Fairly good. Of course, my buddy Ian, Standards. Quicksand's Distant Populations. The Earth is a Black Hole by Teenage Wrist, who did the collab with Loathe, and Is It Really You? Is a very good track. And I'm wondering if it's going to be on the new Loathe album. It has potential to be. A band that made up for, what we missed, that came back, and weirdly wound up making up for Death Data Remembers album, with Gone Are the Good Days, by Chunk No Captain Chunk. French band that's apparently basically Simple Plan if they went easy core and did not suck. At least that's the way I see it. So, and yes, sorry to Jader Parama, but thank you for the recommendation. Anyways, it's Beartooth's Below. It's nice. Well, keep an eye on them. Even though I liked another particular band that I did introduce you to better, we will get to that in a minute. Times of Grace, songs. Lost Seperation, the project that guitarist Adam and Jess, that's the last name I'm blanking on, and Jesse from Killswitch Engage just had done and brought back. I got more out of another band doing whatever these guys were doing in the Perfect Circle sense. Black Country New Road by Black Country New Roads For the First Time EP. Apparently I have another EP out. I've yet to check it out. I don't know if I bothered to because I wasn't too impressed, but it's not a bad debut, that's for sure. Slant. The Slant's 1 EP. That's apparently a North Korean, a band, hardcore punk act of female-fronted hardcore punk act from North Korea. They have a lot to say. They have a lot to be hardcore about over there, I tell you what. The Contention Experiment 3, the project, Portnoy, and this was better than the Dream Theater record, and I'm not sure I like it more than Terminal Velocity, but that is what it is. I'm blanking on the names. I want to say this is Cavalcade, unless that's the first album. I liked this, but it'll be a link in the description. My head's blanking. Crusade, Rising Visionary. Sorry to those who liked that album very much. The other thing, not this, but apparently nobody liked the Crusade record. I liked it. I get it's so-so in the prog sphere, but hopefully they'll do better in the next couple tracks here and there. Eldovar, A Story of Light and Darkness by Elder and Kadavar. It was great to see Elder back at it again. Return of Failure with Wild-type Droid, not bad. Just another later era, I guess a later era thing with Failure, it seems. Or at least anything they've done post the one album with the breakup. Volbeat, Servant of the Mind. Self-titled Sion record with with Howard Jones and Jared Dines. Self-titled Bullet for My Valentine. The Teramaze albums. These, EP, Sorella, Minore, and I guess you could say an EP. And the album and the beauty, and in the beauty they perceive. The first Teramaze is finally good to see a good Christian band again. At least for me, you know, especially in prog sphere. Very rare. At least for prog. Rivers of Nihil. Nihil's The Work was pretty good, though I liked their last album much better, as I looked this up. Torn Arteries by Carcass. Thrice. Why am I forgetting the album name? That's making me very mad. But yes, I like that album. The Interrobane by Switchfoot. Ginger's Wallflowers was okay. It wasn't bad. The New Royal Blood was nice, so definitely a step up from their last record. Foo Fighters Minutes and Midnight definitely step up from their last record as well. Someone's Imperial and Okay Human by Weezer. Those are the honorable mentions. Now let's talk about these here, which will be essentially part of the list, but technically aren't numerically in any order whatsoever. And I'm going to start with the ones that I do have actual albums of that you would think would be on my list, but for some reason, some of which almost made my list. And these two albums almost did, by the way, because I was willing to buy them. But there were some I had wanted to buy that I would have more preferred. But before we get to those, which I'll wait to those actually, because well, you saw nothing. Under a Dying Sun by Amber Lynn. Yeah, what a surprise outing to cap off the end of the year, that's for sure. Good job, guys. Good job. Chevelle Neritas. This is the last album we get. Not a bad outing. Sort of nice loose concept thing. Once again, it seems the producer that has been working with Tool the past couple records, well, it seems that Chevelle has benefited from that producer, working with that producer way more. Why am I blanking on the producer's name? But anyways, they're especially given the circumstances that it's just Sam and Pete Loeffler, and the Dean B. I forgot the rest of his name, but I know it's a B is the first. So, once Dean B left, their brother-in-law, the band is known to be a family affair, or at least became more so since when their brother Joe had joined the band. It became that, so that they could keep it in the family. Then Joe left. They weren't able to keep it in the family somehow, some way. Their brother-in-law came into play, and he kept it in the family, at least for a while, until he chose to leave to be with his family. Can't say I blame him. So, yeah. It was a solid enough record, for sure. Worthy enough for the list, as far as I'm concerned. At the Gates. The Nightmare of Being. Not a bad first album to have, though it wasn't exactly my first in terms of the discography. I did check out Slaughter the Soul, and honestly, I feel like their A Reality at War album, from a production standpoint, was what the album band needed for what that sound was. And I feel like that production and this album kind of needed as well, a little bit. That's why I didn't make the main list. But it's a nice album for sure. Very much more jazzy and progressive for a melodic death metal record. The great pioneers themselves. Oops, sorry guys. Volo Witness. I feel like this band, unlike Crusades, did a better job of trying to make an accessible progressive rock album, or at least they held their vocals sound very Blue October in nature. So, if you like Blue October, and you want to check out something progressive in nature, even more, but like want something more in the progressive rock sphere. Hell, there is even a rap thing that's not half bad. Or at least I liked it more the last time I wound up listening to it. So, yeah, not bad. Ah, Tremonti, Marching in Time. Ah, I liked it better than their last record. I liked it better than Dying Machine, that's for sure. And I've yet to hear about the book. I couldn't even find the book in any place because it wasn't a bestseller. I wonder why, but well, but I'm glad for this. They're still managed. I'm glad that they did, especially since last record was the first time without Wolfgang. More on him later. But yes, I'm glad, and it's one of the first few with the prototype MT100. And would love to try that amp, especially after having been at a Guitar Center trying the MT15. Holy moly. I wanted to kind of put it on the list too, but you know, Ken's Whitechapel, guys. Finally, as something deathcore, I can finally find a way to sink in my teeth into. I had to listen, apparently from the lyrical content, I had to listen to The Valley, at the very least, before I listened to this, and I enjoyed myself with that a little bit. A bit too much on the deathcore side for my taste still, but this album, on the other hand, did exactly what I was trying to say about Times of Grace. So, and I think this band did a better job with it, and they were deathcore. So, and they had more blah-blah deathcore-y things, so they did real well, as far as I'm concerned. And it's probably the one metal album Crash liked the most. Thompson liked the most, and that list is... I was underwhelmed by that, but whatever. And Spirit Box Eternal Blue. Yes, I get it. The hype is real on this thing. But I never really went back to it as much, and I felt like in the context of the record, some of the songs that were outside of them weren't as nearly as strong as I remembered. But they work within the context of the record, so I kind of knew what to expect a little bit because they were at least singles that kind of made it pretty clear how this album was going to end because he chose some of them at the end. But, you know, I'd say Courtney and Mike and the rest of the crew made a great official true debut album. So, and Courtney's rocking that blue hair just as much as she had that red hair. Good job. Good job. Ah, Mastodon, Hushed and Grim. Yeah, you did grow on me a little more. That's for sure. That's for sure. And yeah, I definitely still recommend that you listen to the one EP that came out the same year that Impersonate had come out, because that will definitely get you way more prepared before you listen to this, because it will prepare you a lot better. And plus knowing the details in the context of what happened with their manager. So, a great tribute to someone fallen. When someone who dies apparently of cancer, it really does something to them. It makes them make really beautiful, awesome music. And so far, they have not made made anything as bad as Hunter or that one soundtrack to that one not so great DC movie. Even though I was okay with the movie that involved Josh Brolin and Megan Fox. But anyways. I'm forgetting the name of it, but I know it's Thank You Scientist. And yeah. I think it's a weird name too. But yeah, this EP is way better. At least I got a lot out of it except for the way they ended it so anticlimactic that I was kind of on its very end, but I liked what was going on even leading up to it, that it was fine. And it's still worth a recommendation. In the Court of the Dragon by Trivium. Yes, I was almost wanting to put them on my list, man. Almost. But, and I've gotten to the point where I started to like it more than the Demon Say. I don't know if I like it more than Sin of the Sentence or, say, Shogun, but I'd say those, and hell, if not, or yet alone, why am I blanking on the Ascendancy? Yeah. But it has elements of all those enough that it makes this album worth its time, and the drummer they've had has really been pushing Matt and the rest of the band in such a glorious way. It's worth your time. worth checking out. The Stranger in the High Tide by Moron Police. A good EP that follows up a great album like A Boat in the Sea. Be careful of the albums prior to The Boat in the Sea, lyrically at least. Sonically, at least, the album prior is fun. I mean, if you like some Mr. Bungle humor stuff, at least, watch out for those. But this is kind of a country record, so, yeah. If I can just do this without following this part. Okay. Oh, every time I die. Oh, radical. I think this will be the last album for a long while we're going to get out of them now, given the recent news. And it turns out even Buckley's not as much to blame as the rest of the band at this point. Apparently, he was kind of being a jerk, too. But even though it seems the band's way they were going about it said otherwise, but that they were more the jerks, but apparently no side on this situation is bad, and it's looking pretty bad to where they couldn't tour, and they already announced the tour, and they were going to tour with Spirit Box and Under Oath, which I need to eventually get to talking about that new album when I finally get a chance to listen to it, because I've been stuck trying to do this list right. So, but yes, it's quite a record to end. I liked Low Teens a little bit better, but I've seen what the pandemic did to these guys, and we've seen how much more it did to those guys. And yeah, they just needed to call it quits. I'm glad they were able to release this album before all the bullshit, but yeah. Anyways, Employed to Serve Conquering. What a jam. I don't know if I still can say I still like this more than Eternal Blue one, since they both came out around the same time frame. But yeah, if you like speaking Every Time I Die, if you like that, but you want some more female vocals that have some more growl and bite to them in a way that kind of reminds you of Courtney and Mike's old band of it, sort of Bear once, with maybe a Paramore twist. Don't quote me on that last one though, but I'm trying to remember the other stuff I compared this album to, but it was really good, really good. Age War Manic. I liked it better than their last record. In fact, even more so to where the one song that is considered the weakest by some, being Manic, is still a banger too. Enough that I would pick it over the weakest song off of the last record they did. It's still it's a major step up in my opinion, and it still shows the band is still willing to grow and experiment despite what some people were saying about their last album. I was so glad to finally get a chance to listen to this band. More so just to check out their discography, because this may be the last album given the circumstances that 2020 did with COVID hitting a couple of the members. And this is basically him getting some members together and other guys together and trying to finish this album out, and paying major tribute to those fallen members that were part of this group. Aurora can kind of tug at the heartstrings just a little bit, of the tracks on here. At least in terms of how to accept death in that kind of, But yeah, Cynic, very much leaving off from Bent to Free Us to this, or Kindly Bent to Free Us, to what made them the biggest staple and may as well have defined most of prog, especially in this past decade, with Focus, and you do get a lot of that going on in here as well, especially the vocal harmonies, but you can still hear that the clean ideas that were good, and a highlight to me about Kindly Bent to Free Us, are present as well, even though Kindly Bent to Free Us kind of has a very Mudvayne kind of a thing, but in a way that actually is less nasally, and I would love to learn how to utilize. Miles Kennedy, The Ides of March. Oh. It's not a sophomore slump, but though I wouldn't say it's as good or as emotionally impactfully punchy. It's really punchy, I'd say, as their last record, but it's definitely, and it's more a retrospective record, I would say, in its approach. And I like that about it. And it's definitely a little bit more rockier, more blues rock oriented, closer in line with something like what he was doing with maybe closer to Slash, or at least those aspects that are more rockier definitely, if you like some of the more country bluesy southern rocky based stuff that he had done with his Mayfield 4 days that didn't transition into Alter Bridge or any of his other projects, that's his solo stuff essentially. I would definitely check him out, and if you love Alter Bridge and love his voice, you'll still love it as well. Bestial Invasion, the Divine Comedy Inferno. Finally, a band does not only that, but does this band do a good job of a classic play / just story in general about Dante's Inferno, but it's even better than it's musically a progressive thrash album that is very more in vein of an epic, but in a way that feels like an epic, if not power metal-ish. In terms of progressive metal's roots and power, but having more of an epic metal, a speed metal-ish feel, and that, or at least the more Iron Maiden speed metal that ish kind of moments, basically better than Senjutsu. I mean, I would rather you listen to Court of the Dragon, but like this is a good go-between in between, and I've recommended it to some people who were some Catholic friends, and they loved it, that are into metal, or at least old school style, and they love this. So, yeah, highly recommend this. And then there's Enforced Kill Grid. Happy birthday to me when this came out. Enforced is a great... This is just no different from any other thrash band. But if you like thrash, just straight up thrash metal, that Slayer, early Metallica, freaking Megadeth stuff, you will love Enforced. And it does that. It's that one trick, and it's done extremely well. And I'm sorry for my dog. She's being a pansy because it's cold outside. It's like, you wait till Dad or Mom deal with you, because I'm going to be leaving soon. But anyways, don't worry, I love my dog. She's a good pup, usually most of the time. Yeah, you can ignore that part if you want, but for at least some of the people who are more atheist-like. But anyways, it was just a nice thing my mom gave for me, and I figured I'd use it as a stand for the time being. I had it, so also, my higher recommendations of Tearing the Fabric of Life by Knocked Loose, which were great live, as well as Gojira at the same concert, and Fortitude. Which I was thinking of putting Fortitude on this list, but there was just another album that came out later in this year that I just... And now we're starting with these albums, my friends. The final albums. There's my thing. There it is. Up. And we're going to start with this one. And that album is Wild Hunt by Lantless. A formerly known as one of these blackened shoegaze-based bands. There's a phrase called black gaze. Good luck saying that in a certain group of areas. But anyways, another term is post-black metal, or blackened post-metal, I would say. But here's the thing: this band isn't that this time around. Instead, rather, they've completely transitioned away from it and went more alternative metal, alternative rock-esque. In a way that has some very pop-punk alternative, very much a blend of like shoegazy old metal, dream poppy old metal, like Deftones, but with more of a Untitled Neighborhoods, maybe the recent album, to a certain extent in terms of the production, especially in the vocal style of the singer, which reminds me a lot of Mark Hoppus. So, in a way, though I'd say more if Paige Hamilton of Helmet was doing a Mark Hoppus impression and actually did a good job. Or at least in a way that benefited him, as opposed to doing an Ozzy impression that you normally would expect from him. So, yeah. Yeah, and plus Dog in the Wild I recommend highly. It's like it sounds like a corgi barking at you while you're high. That's the synth note near the end of that song. Trust me, just listen to that alone is worth a little bit of a chuckle. Cool, but yeah, that's really good stuff, and I think like the third track, you really feel like you're listening to some good Blink, like from Untitled and stuff. That was my number 10. At number 9, which now these albums are my actual list. Lepros Aphelion. Yes, it's on there. I don't get the hate some people are putting on this album, or the disappointment. Like, what expectations did you have? I knew they were just still sticking into the progressive rock territory. Not only did it meet it, but by the end of the record, they went beyond that and actually did something I didn't think they were going to do, and that's really go back to their more black metal roots. With that final screams and stuff, which people were wanting more out of that, and I'm like, you're left wanting more. What's the problem with that? It's a great... I love this album better than Pitfalls and Melinda. Or Melina. But either way, I like those. I like this way more. I can't wait to get this finally in physical copy. And I definitely would, from what I remember of the first 4 albums, I would definitely put this over Cole. And that's saying Cole way more. Because I like the Congregation a lot. In fact, I hadn't felt this kind of energy through and through from an album since that record. So, and number 8 might be a little controversial. But like I said we'd get back to him. Mammoth, WVH, Wolfgang Van Halen. This is such a catchy album, dude. I love this. Even the album songs I thought I was not liking, I started to like all of a sudden. I was like, whoa. You know, it was just crazy. So crazy. But anyways. But yes, this is a great debut. I can't wait to hear more from him. He's definitely one of the better newer artists, and he can play like his dad, and he can play like Mark. So, number 7, self-titled Era. I cannot. I've heard Night of Silence. I've already heard the plot version of Vanished Canvases, which is still, even without the feature, it's still one of the best tracks on the album. Even though this entire album is really, really good. Really, 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 really good. Really good, and it's great progressive metalcore. Even though I would say more ambient metalcore with progressive rockish tendencies, or progressive metal tendencies, whichever. Just rock / metal tendencies. But anyways. And then Epica. Omega. Great symphonic metal record. From what I've heard, I would rather recommend this thing than, especially on, even with death metal elements, it's still fun. Even their supposedly weakest song in Rivers is still a bop. I love the piano work and lead female singer's soprano's vocals that are just, I mean, I'm even told that their live version of this, which is their live set version, is really good as well. 6. On to number 5. Etum. Probably have to put this in there, so I apologize. All I do remember is the band's name is Dune, and I want to say Antum Etum. I probably butchered that last. I butchered the name of the album, and I'm sorry to the fans. But Dune, which is the name of this album, not Divine, Dune. The V is supposed to be like a U, like churches in some certain black metal places. But anyways, this album, this is a good progressive metal album, and I get some at the drive-in vibes, like Spaceship Command at the drive-in vibes. And I'm just assuming that because the color of the album is very similar. Color palette's very similar. But yeah, it's a great sophomore effort apparently, but it turns out it's a prequel album to the past album, which only in turn, if you listen to this first and then listen to that album, somehow makes the first album somehow seemingly better. But regardless, it's still a great first start. They made a second album that was not intended to be better than the first. In fact, it was meant to be intended in a way that makes you want to go back to the first check out the first album, and even like that even more. They benefited from whatever their entire discography is. Blood Moon 1, Converge, and Chelsea Wolf. Chelsea Wolf's gained my attention now. I've always had Convergence attention since Dusk and Us. This thing is quite the gothic and atmospheric sludge metal album. Sorry for the story there, but wow. This thing is insane. Not for the faint of heart. Very occultic in nature. I mean, the sludgy elements being very sludge doom, I'd say. And the gothic nature of it too. But it's still a good musically. I mean, it starts. I think the first 3 tracks or so are really like, but once you get past it, I think the rest of the music takes care of itself and still hits pretty hard. Maybe not in the same eerie way that the start of it, but it's really dang good, and I can't wait for Blood Moon too. I'll tell you that. I struggled with this top 3. There was a time this was number 1. Hell, I was going to have it number 2, and then I was going to have it number 1 again. But after having revisited it, especially with some weirder headphones to where the guitars aren't as strong for some reason, which kind of ruined it for me, but I blame the headphones I got from Zach for that, for affecting this. But yes, local homies from St. Louis, Lion's Daughter with their album Skin Show. Their 4th album, apparently. And it's making waves, and it deserves to make waves. It is an amazing record. Man. This album is just, from start to finish, is still worth your time. It's very there's so much about this that's so original in its own right. You can't deny it. Number 2. If you can see the clouds, I doubt you can. I hope you can. But yeah. Yes. To Matty Gunner, if he's watching this. Yes, it is that good. The Turnstile album, Glow On. Of the albums, it's probably of the albums that I have here on this list that I highly want to recommend. I highly recommend it to people. It's my list though, and it's not number 1. It probably should be in a lot of other people's eyes because it's the most easily accessibly talked about album that in any circle I can talk about without hesitating, and hope that they listen to it and have fun with it without batting an eye, you know. Because even my number 1 will has some issues with it itself, but also I forgot to mention this is a skin show is a sort of a, they were considered black and sludge, but they're more I'd say they're more gothic sludge with black and roll elements in it, maybe, or there's some or at least to the point where it seems their sludgy elements of doom are more death doomy in nature, I guess I would say. Especially with the growls and the death growls and this black metal screeching. It slays. This album also in its own right, it's very much, this band was a straight up more hardcore punk, that just heavy hardcore style band that kind of went super 80s and went more post-punk and more of a post-punk album in nature. Crash Thompson, who put it as number 10, said, "This is the FA album we never got." In a way, you could say that is true as well. At least, but I wouldn't so far. I'd hear more Jane's Addiction and Bad Brains, like early stuff, like nothing shocking and like Eye Against Eye, kind of, especially for the guitars, like wailing and stuff. You know, with that perfect way of bringing in punk rock with the brown sound. Whammy bar shit, just arena rock shit, just mwah, mwah, mwah. Yes, especially if you like the more melodic hardcore, and especially that their style is more melodic hardcore in that Pennywise kind of way, with some hints of heavy hardcore like your Cro-Mags and whatnot. But yeah, this album it's considered dream punk, and this dreamy punk album, what a dream it is. And my number 1, I struggled with it initially at Figured Skin Show, and I was even willing to consider this, but I hadn't even considered number 3, but I just decided to put it up a higher. And then it happened. Well, if I can find... Colors 2 between the Baron and me. But the bam! Yes. Yes. And double yes. They did it, guys. They made the sequel to one of their best albums and somehow, someway pulled it off. Whether or not you consider this album better than that, or even are willing to like it way more than what they've been putting out post-Parallax, which apparently is where some people had issues. I don't, because Coma Ecliptic was my... I'm lucky that Coma Ecliptic was my gateway point into this band. And that through that, and what I enjoyed about the band that I remembered, didn't start hitting me when going through the discography, front to back, even with Alaska. Album-wise. I wasn't able to get into it till much later in life. But it was Colors, where things did hit. And I understood why a friend of mine who recommended them for so long finally did. And I liked the Automata series, but I felt that problem with that was the way they marketed it and split it into 2 when it didn't need to be. And Automata 2's track listing on the physical copy makes it very clear that should not have been the case, and they should have released it pretty much like Periphery did with the one series that I'm blanking on that's making me mad because it was one of my favorites and my gateway point in that band. But anyways, Between the Buried and Me, from all of its album, from every track to me, is just, it's quite a journey, no matter who you are to me, you know. Starting from Monochrome to the double helix of Extinction, which led to the back-to-back of Revolution, Limbo, and Fix the Error. Even Never Seen in Future Shock is where things start to get a little more 80s, and they just embrace it from that point forward throughout the rest of the album, while still doing the things that make Between the Buried and Me. Stereo to the Abyss, Prehistory, and Bad Habits Aren't Bad. I think I like Prehistory a lot more for its goofiness. Or was it Bad? Did Bad Habits have that one? But anyways. Or Prehistory's a bit Looney Tunes. Literally. And Futures Behind Us, where you hear the classic... They really enjoy their 80s stuff. The Turbulent was great. Fumata... when it first hit, the way that those guitars hit that time, and of course the final track that a lot of people are saying is the New White Walls, Human is Hell, another one, and even in parentheses making it pretty clear, another one with love. I almost caved and not put this on the list because of someone else that said so, and yeah. I had to revisit them before I made this for sure because I was struggling with my top 3. In fact, I knew that my top 3 I knew were the top 3 for sure, whether or not they were in the right order or not. But this was it. This was that album for me. This just was that album that was fun. In fact, I knew it because when I recently revisited before I made this video, I went and played that guitar, and I just kind of had one of those moments where I was just playing it, not even knowing what I was playing because I was listening to the album, and just looking out at the night sky, just at the sunset night sky, just taking it all in. Yeah, it's one of those albums, dude. And you could tell there's some post-pandemic stuff going on too, but yeah, this album just fucking rules. And honestly, I'm almost half tempted, if I did a Between the Buried and Me discovery thing, I'm almost half tempted to just put it in as a tie with Colors. I really am. I I'd say I'd compare this as the 22 Jump Street to 21 Jump Street, being more of an accurate statement. I wouldn't say it's the sequel that's better than the original. I wouldn't go that far. I would go as far as to say it's on at the very least the most I could say is that it's on par with the original, which is impressive in itself. Even though some people feel like they have diminished returns, I don't. I almost did went through my second listen, and I gave another third listen. I knew it was already in my head, so I didn't even have to where I didn't have to, and I knew I liked it still, regardless. And yeah, it's that good of an album. It's worth your time. And it's my album of the year. What did you guys think of my list? For as bumboozly as it was. Leave a comment below. Let me know. As always, guys, keep it random. Keep it real. And as always, and if you like this video, rock that like button, thrust if you must. Link in the description to everything. Hopefully also to some of these albums so you can check them out in case you missed something in 2021. And yeah, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bells if you want to see more of my videos. And to check out my channel. Other links as well. Some are GoFundMe's. Yeah. And overall, as always, guys, keep it random. And thanks for getting me through 2021 with these albums as best as you guys could, you know. For what few of you who, you know, do comment. I know I don't have a whole lot of people. And not everybody likes what I do. I guess I'm an acquired taste. I get it. But, you know, some of you, through some certain communities, whether it be through some of the ones I met through the music or even the movie communities, even though I barely do reviews on that lately. Though with Schmodown, most likely. But anyways, thanks, guys. As always, from 2021 on into 2022, have a better 2022, I guess. If 2022 can even live up to the last 2 to 3 years of music, yeesh. It's gonna be a tough task, but it could happen. But we'll see. We shall see. But as always, guys, keep it random. Keep it random. Keep it real. Keep it rocking. And I'll see you in the next video for the rest and whatever video I make to properly start off 2022. Take care, y'all. Have a wonderful year.